This was also horrifying. Yesterday, Donald Trump signed an executive order titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. And notably, it looks like he's trying to recreate the Tim Walz photo op of signing free school lunches into law, where all these kids started to hug him. In this instance, he's using all young girls to surround him. I mean, this is some image. They're all white too, which seems like... I
mean, it's his supporters, probably daughters, I imagine.
Yeah, it seems like a deliberate choice, but here he is signing that law into ban, which, as a reminder, the recount points out, would affect less than 1% of student athletes. And to say less than 1% is almost exaggerating the number of people that are going to be targeted by this.
They could just say the number.
Yeah.
Secret Service is worried about them. If we have to worry about them, we have big problems. Okay, do you want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay? Are you ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that. I want to make this a really good signature. Because this is, this is a big one, right?
Okay.
Is it a big one?
Whatever.
Yeah, keep going. I wanted to see what he says at the end.
Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
The daughters of the Confederacy.
Yeah. All right. That was it. He's fixated on the size of his signature, as always. Just truly the brain of a
really important stuff.
An
we're
idiot.
Doing.
And yeah, I mean, obviously, this is just atrocious. The population of trans athletes. This came out in the hearings. I think it was Dick Durbin that asked this question, but there are over 500,000 NCAA athletes. Fewer than 10 are transgender. Fewer than 10.
And again, we don't need America's governing bodies and political bodies to be encroaching and making, frankly, propaganda out of an issue that should be handled by athletic directors and people like that. It's just ludicrous that this is politics. And
notice how he's just surrounded by young girls, just surrounded by young cis girls. Because we've talked about this before. The trans anxiety that they try to engender and ramp up is based still and connected to notions of patriarchy. So there's an anxiety among white male conservatives about the idea of having their genitalia removed surgically that they tap into. And also this notion that how could you want to become a woman, the lesser sex? Because you notice that trans men are not really the subject of this hate campaign, and that's not to belittle what trans men go through, but this particular focus on trans girls and women in sports, it's a way to, in the same way that white women and their safety was used to justify racial discrimination in the past and was the reason that lynchings, justification for lynchings in the South and things like that, the protection of young white girls and women is being used for hateful ends in this area as well.
No coalition in recent American history has done more to attack the rights of young women than this one.
Yeah.
With the stocking of the Supreme Court with Roe versus Wade. Who gets abortions disproportionately? It's younger women. And they are now telling you to spy on your neighbors and rat them out. So they need to be seen doing something, because they do have still women in their coalition, and they can be satisfied, unfortunately, with this sort of complete bullshit symbolism, and which is at the price of attacking a handful of trans people who want to be included in sports.
Yeah, and it's thankfully 15 attorneys general from blue states are issued a statement and said that they're going to protect gender affirming care. But Trump is doing this under the under Title IX through the Department of Education, and essentially saying that allowing trans girls in sports or trans women, fewer than 10 out of 500,000 in the NCAA, is discriminating against those women. It's so paper thin when you get just like to the logic of it, because this is less than 0.002% that we're talking about here. But hey, a marginalized population that we can punch at and attack because we want to distract from the fact that we're looting the federal government and cutting taxes for the rich. Sure, we'll do that.
And we're actually coming for your freedoms, because actually we're putting Republican lawmakers and politicians between not only like people in sports who don't need it, but also people and women and their doctors.
Yeah.
And like, it's just so, it should be obvious to people what's actually happening right now. And people who think this is at all relevant for politics, that we have some sort of scourge of people misgendering themselves to play in sports, you are a lunatic.
Yeah.
You have been subscribed to hysteria, and you are being basically led around like an idiot because your votes are helpful for fascists trying to take power.
And so this was Fox News's reaction to this. Here's Jesse Waters talking to Jessica Tarlov, who's the resident liberal on the Five, about this executive order.
Jesse, what do you think?
How many trans teens killed themselves today, Jessica?
Jesus.
I didn't get my update yet. I don't know.
Well, no, because you guys said that if you wouldn't let trans teens do whatever they wanted, they were going to become suicidal. So I'm just wondering, you know, between this and the no surgeries, we should see a rash of teenage suicide this year, right? Obviously, I'm being sarcastic because that was a BS excuse. Where are the records going to go? That's what I'm worried about, because a lot of men shattered female records. Those records should be replaced.
Never happened.
Where are the Democrats protesting this? I thought trans rights were human rights, Jessica. No, they're I think, protesting a slush fund.
Okay, all right, whatever. I mean, just the mocking of the suicide stuff is all I need to see, because I made this point on social media, and I don't, like, there's some sort of turf group that has me on alerts or something like that, and they're all coming at it with the same talking points. The suicide thing, you're holding us hostage, as if they're the victims in this instance. I mean, it's absolutely astounding. Yeah. But Jesse Waters, now he suddenly cares about the topic of suicidal ideation as it relates to discrimination based on gender identity or sexual orientation. He's just throwing that out there to make fun of the left, because he never illustrated the fact that there was a study, and have been multiple studies by UCLA, that found that 81% of transgender adults in this country have considered suicide. 42% of transgender adults have attempted it. 56% have engaged in self-injury over their lifetimes. And that is not the same proportion as cisgender people. Trans adults are 7 times more likely to contemplate suicide, 4 times more likely to attempt it, 8 times as likely to engage in non-suicidal self-injury, according to this study from UCLA. And there's a ton of other information on this front that you can look up. Is that just because they're so mentally ill? That's what the Republicans try to say, as they say, like, don't come for us on gun control. It's the mental illness problem. But on this point, they don't want to help anybody. All they want to do is shove you back in the closet. That's what it is. And if suicidal ideation increases because people can't live their lives and be themselves, so be it. That's the society that they're trying to create. So just gratuitous, ridiculous. And I know personally, I have a trans man in my family who was trying to reapply for their passport, and it's not coming back. And there's concern, and they're hearing all over the place that these passports, when people tried to apply, they were being held up. And yeah, it's just going to result in more discrimination, and these 4 years are going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, and anybody who fed into it should be ashamed of themselves.
Absolutely.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.